Welcome to HSE Career Tips. Today I am sharing some of the HSE Lead questions was asked in the last interview in one of Qatar gas projects. Let's start the first question. They started in the HSE plan. The interviewer asks, what is HSE plan and what are the components are included in the HSE plan? What are the key risks should included in the HSE plan? Who is responsible for developing HSE plan? These kind of the questions they covered in the HSE plan. Next, they started a question from the Health and Safety Management System. They asked what is Health and Safety Management System and why the Health and Safety Management Systems are important in the projects. What are the key elements are present in the Health and Safety Management System? What is the difference between HSE plan and Health and Safety Management System? Then they ask question from the risk assessment section. They ask different type of risk assessment. What is the difference between qualitative and quantitative risk assessment? What is alarm principle in the risk assessment? What is your action if the risk is not possible to reduce to acceptable level and how you will control this risk? They ask the questions from emergency response and actions plan. They ask what is emergency response plan and types of emergency occurred in oil and gas industry. How do you act in case of fire breakout during the confined space activities? What is the role of emergency safety systems? And what are the types of EST system available in the oil and gas industry? Then they ask question about HTUs and gas detecting system in oil and gas industry. They ask what is the permissible exposure limit of H2S? What type of gas detectors are used in oil and gas industry? What is the difference between fixed and portable gas detectors? What is pump testing and what is the purpose of pump testing? What is the difference between CBA and SCBA? And they ask what is the purpose of low pressure alarm in the SCBA systems? Then they ask questions about isolation safety and LOTO. They ask what is the purpose of LOTO application in oil and gas industries? What is the difference between blinding and spreading activity? To confirm zero energy before starting any activity. And they ask what will do in case LOTO and isolation systems are not possible. And they ask question about oil and gas entry requirements. They ask what need to check before entering to the restricted area. What are the basic requirements before entering to the HTUS area? Then they ask question about confined space entry. What is LEL in confined space? What is your action if oxygen level is drops in the confined space entry? Types of confined space involved in the oil and gas industry. What is your actions in case of gas detectors are alarming during your activities? Then they asked question about excavation safety. What is benching? What is sloping? And what is cave-in? And what are the safety precautions are required for the deep excavation activities? And you are suspecting the underground utilities are present your excavating area, but this one is not reflecting in your drawing. How you will handle these situations? Then they ask questions about the lifting activities. Explain the different types of lifting activities and what is the difference between critical and non-critical lifting activities. The load is heavier than SWL. What are the actions you will take? What are the safety precautions you will take during tandem lifting? Night lifting activities planned in the site. So what are the safety precautions you will take? Load chart is not available in the crane. Can lifting start? Then they ask question about fire safety. They ask types of the fire involved in oil and gas industry. Fire alarm is activator. What will do? What is fire load? What type of fire suppression system used in oil and gas industry? What is foam system in oil and gas and what type of foam is using in oil and gas industry. Then they ask question about HSE KPI and monitoring. What are the leading and lagging indicator? Give some examples. And what is TRIR? And the TRIR rate is high in your project. How you will reduce it? How do you monitor your subcontractor safety performance? And what you will do if your workers are not reporting any near misses and repeated violations are reported in your projects? Then what is accident frequency rate and how you will calculate the accident frequency rate in your projects? How do you develop HSE KPIs for new projects? And how do you continuously improve HSE performance in your projects? Then finally they ask questions about Unsafe Act and unsafe conditions. They ask what is your action plan if unsafe acts are increasing in your projects. You observe the worksite supervisor is ignoring the unsafe act and conditions and they are giving pressure to the workers to completing the task. What will you do? Finally, they ask you see your senior workers violating safety rules. How will you correct them? Then they ask about HSE policy. What are the content included in the HSE policy? And they ask what is the role of management in health and safety policy? How do you ensure your subcontractors are following health and safety policy? How do you align your health and safety policy with project risks? Then they asked question about HSE audits. What is audit plan and what is audit checklist? What is the difference between audits and inspections? How do you conduct an health and safety audit in your projects? How do you plan an audit schedule for your projects? And they ask how do you prioritize your audit findings? Finally, they ask how do you present audit result to your management? These are the questions asked in the last interview. I will share the answers in the upcoming videos. If you found this is helpful, please support and subscribe this channel. Thank you.